Firstly, how are you? It's been a long time, and
I'm
I think it's great to finally catch up for a talk, right?
absolutely. Otherwise, you're always talking concerts.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And what a way to start this first conversation of ours than to start with something that has been nominated in Grammys, right?
Absolutely.
And I think, first of all, congratulations to you, the entire team. And everybody is keeping fingers crossed that hope we get Grammys and the album does wonders globally. And on that note, when did you decide that we need to submit this for Grammy?
Last year. So Vedam, when we started, right, we went with the intent that we want to bring wellness in the forefront.
Yeah.
And Grammys was the best way for us to make that very significant dent as well, right? So when we started the label last year, uh, we also had the first nomination. So we launched the label and we had Ricky Kedge being the first nomination. This year around, when we did have entries in, we had Sounds of Kumbha. And when we heard the album the first time around, we were like, this is the album, right? And Waves was on. We all were listening to the albums, and suddenly in June, July, we're like, okay, this is it. It needs to make the entries right now. And that's when the process started, and it's still going on. We finished the first round of nominations, which we're happy to be in the top five. And now we're looking forward to the second round, which is pretty much the winning vote round, right? So it's a long process, but we look forward to it. Fingers crossed, like everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think a lot of us are praying and hoping that we come through, and it'll be a
Hmm.
actually a big achievement for us as a country,
Hmm.
if we talk about it. But you said nomination process and the Grammy overall, there is a huge long process that needs to be done. Just for basically for our viewers and audiences to understand how does a Grammy nomination process look like. Would you be able to give us a run through and very simple steps of how does it happen and what are the various
So
stages?
I'm going to give you a very, very simple breakdown, to it. Uh, Music needs to be released within a certain time frame. So if we're looking at this year, obviously music had to be released last year, uh, till a certain voting range that you have. Like generally between, I think it ends. I'll give you the dates exactly. Just give me 1 second. So 31st August 2024 to
Okay.
30th August 2025 is submission dates for your online, right? So music needs to be released in this period. And we have something called as the OEP, which is the online entry process, through which the albums or singles are submitted. You then have to go through this process of defining which bucket you want to sit in category wise, what is the strategy you're going after, and as soon as that's done, your first voting period starts, right? Once you clear your first voting period, then there's a lull for about 2 weeks for you to strategize for your next voting period, which is already on, which will go on to the 5th of Jan this year into the next. And then you have the results on the 1st of Feb.
Okay. So there are basically technically
Two
submission
vote periods:
and
submission, voting period one, qualification, voting period two.
okay. Wow. Sounds simple, but that's where all the
it's
complication
it's
lies.
it's where all the complication lies, right? It's like the Grammys is as good as applying and building an entire marketing strategy like you would do for the Cannes and all of that. So it
Yeah.
is it is a lot of listening parties, it's a lot of marketing, it's a lot of emails or trying to meet the right contacts, or trying to push and find voting members, right? The most crucial database because it doesn't exist anywhere in the world
Correct.
publicly. So all of that, building your networks and getting uh, your entire bank of voters ready, so to say. It's like a presidential voting campaign nomination run that you do, but
Yeah.
that's what it is, right? For your category that you're trying to build.
Yeah. So, uh, as Vedam Records, when did you decide that okay, we're going to come on board with Sounds of Kumbh? And how
So
did this
what?
overall process happen?
So with the as Sounds of Kumbh, we decided to have this within the Universal Music entry per se, right? Because it's a very global album, and we didn't want to restrict it to Vedam. So Vedam comes on board for SOK with regards to its marketing and planning around the Grammys. The album per se sits and rests with Universal Music Group India because of the structure and the construct of the songs. Uh, but like I said, when we heard the album, is when we decided, like, okay, let's be part of this and let's do something big because uh, for us, this album spoke about Indian culture, traditions, and everything, and it revolved around Kumbh. The best thing was that so everybody could now understand and be part of Kumbh in a musical form, as opposed to just attending the Mahayatra. So that's how we looked at it, of building and bringing Indian culture to the forefront, and not just the musical element, but even the religious and spiritual element.
Fair enough. So when you say bringing Indian culture to the forefront, this is also, I believe, a recurring theme of Vedam Records as such. So, what can you give us some, a breakdown or some?
World, this would fit bhakti as a label or spirituality as a label a lot more. When we look at Vedam Records was designed with a simple initiative in mind, which is better your being, right? Get people to the long term and goal for Vedam Record is, instead of you going to a doctor and she prescribing you a pill, we want music to be the medicine which is prescribed to you. So we focused on 5 buckets: yoga, focused meditation, uh, guided, and deep focus. And that's how we designed our music within it. Right, so we studied a lot of sounds. We studied binaural patterns. We did a couple of research papers around what kids, what adults, what preteens love listening to. What would they want to listen to if it's not core music? And then designed music very specific for yoga, sleep, guided meditations, because a lot of the kids said we have difficulty sleeping. We had a lot of adults saying that we need guided stuff to calm our anxiety, right? So we design music around that. We design music around the chakras, the frequencies per se, and that's how Vedam came to be. Just pre-lockdown, but of course exploded post the lockdown, because we realized everybody during COVID was only listening to either white noise, brown noise, or just isochronic tones in the background while they were working, because they were so fatigued with listening to core music through and through, right?
And for my understanding, how long was this research done for? Or what was the period that you took?
5 years.
5 years. That's an
Yeah.
extensive
So
research.
Vedam's been in development since 2019. We only publicly launched in 24.
Okay, all right. And look, health, wellness, spirituality, stress, anxiety. These are really the core issues that people are dealing with in the current times. And with Vedam Records, uh, then in that sense, what is planned for 2026?
Well, we're working towards one simple goal, where music is medicine, right? 2026 holds uh, an album which we're doing with Chad Lawson, who is again signed by Decca. He's a Solos first artist, which is a special program for sound and wellness that we have with Apple. Uh, we're designing next year's album for the Grammys with him, which is for us India's first album which moves around ASMR, piano, and isochronic tones, which will be in immersive, right? So that is what we're building as one album for sleep. We've got a couple of Indian classical albums and musicians coming in to do what Rishabh is already doing, Sitar on mental health, but taking it a little scientifically and seeing what actually works. We actually do have another pianist who's coming in, Charu Suri, who's also part of the Grammys this year, who's part of SOK as well, who's moving into rhythm to design ragas for sleep on piano. So we have a bunch of sleep music coming out next year. Plus, we've got a lot of lo-fi and deep focus music that we're building for kids and college preteen.
What I realize when I listen more about Vedam is that it has got a lot of elements coming from science, from research, and from societal observation. Now, when I talk about science in per se, where is the scientific element coming from within Universal for Vedam? Is there a division which has been set up which deals with this from a scientific viewpoint perspective.
We do have a committee within UMG that sits within India and a global level, where every music piece before it hits out, right down to the briefs are vetted before they go out to composers, and only then do we have the music out. The first piece of research paper will be published probably by the end of this year, early first quarter next year for Solos, which is a health and wellness label that we initiated. Bases all of these principles over the last 5 years. In India, we just started putting together our first white paper for research, which will be published by the end of next year. We're doing them in small cohorts of whatever science behind the music was, basis which the music was made, to now actually live testing it with a lot of people, getting them introduced to this form and sonic, and then getting their feedback. We've just about done two cohorts of the same. In fact, I'll have you over for the next cohort so you understand, what exactly we even do within these research picnics.
Can you take us through what is this research looking like, in the sense that who all come together, what do they do, and how is the output generated?
So we have musicians, we have composers, which form the outer layer of what the music needs to be. But at the core, we have about 7 to 8 of us, led by a neuroscientist and led by two medical practitioners as well, who bring in the research and the science behind it. Then we have the modality experts as well on it. So let's say we're doing guided meditations, or we're doing yoga, or we're doing sleep. We have or breath work, right? We have doctors and empanelments that sit together, form to what the basic problem is. From that problem statement, then look at, okay, let's look at sleep. What do we need for sleep and anxiety? We need to see that the heart rate needs to drop down to 55, 60. There shouldn't be any sharp noises. There are different sleep stages. How do we, cycle that? How do we calm the person down before they even get to the REM cycles? Basis all of this is when we start designing a music bed, and then see like, okay, user feedback has been, in our case, like a lot of people in India love listening to rain sounds, right? But we then understand, okay, does the rain sound actually help? Or should we then include ocean sounds, because the ocean wave breaks in cycles of 12, which incidentally also happens to be a breathwork cycle, right? So when you automatically listen to the waves coming in cycles of 12, your alignment and breath also starts slowing down to match that wave pattern. And then that's how you come down from your average heart rate of 80 to 90 to a resting heart rate of 60 to 65, right? And we do subliminal layers on that, where we add either guided prompts to help you uh, get yourself into that zone, which is led by a modality expert, or we have doctors who tell us, you know what, let's layer an actual heartbeat that's beating in 64 or 65 at the bed of this track, so that when the human ear is listening to these on headphones, it's actually trying to match the second heart that it's hearing, right? And which is what most of us do, is we start focusing on breath, we start focusing on environments, and we start slowing our heart rate down. To add to this, we also have binaural beats in our tracks, which is again science led, where we decide that, okay, 7 hertz of theta is what we need as a subliminal layer. So while we have the track happening, we create an impedance between the left and right headphones so that you get a 7 hertz differential. So while the track is playing, there's also a sine wave layer that's playing in the back of that track. So the moment you are wearing overheads or you're in ears, you'll also hear a sine wave that calms you down. So this is mad research, and the mad, well, I don't want to say mad, but the fun element of all of us, between actual doctors, between neuroscientists, between composers, between sound designers, that we sit and be like, hey, this is the music we need.
I know. I mean, like, look, it was quite overwhelming to understand what all is going on. And to me, it sounded like I'm not talking to a record label executive, but I'm talking to more of a scientist with so many terms and such a beautiful explanation given, which is also a bit relatively easy to comprehend also what is going on. The curious question, what is your graduation or post graduation? Are you a scientist?
No, I'm not. I'm a musician by nature. I think everybody knows that. You know that. I play the piano and the saxophone. I've always been a music educator, but yeah, I majored English lit, for crying out loud. And I have two masters, global sales and marketing and global business. So, but music just comes to me, right? Music's always come to me. And I think largely over the years, because I used to teach ADHD kids the piano growing up, I think it is a lot more passionate for me because it's like how to get 15 minutes of an attention from an ADHD kid in a 1 hour class used to be challenging. And that's when, you start learning, okay, this doesn't work, this works. Let's identify sonics, let's identify games. I guess for me, wellness has always been part of me in varied format, right? And I strongly believe that anyone who learns music or knows to play an instrument is somehow associated to this, because when you look at any musician, the first form of any emotion is their instrument, right? Whether it's the drums, the aggression, whether it's the piano, whether it's the violin, the moment there's an emotion attached to it, or how the artist is feeling, its emotiveness comes on its core instrument, right? And I guess for me, that's designing soundscapes.
So you said there is, out of your experiences, you have learned the kind of challenges you have faced in this space, in not typically this space, but generally getting attention and getting noticed, or getting not noticed, but getting attention, making people understand what you're doing and how it helps them, etc., etc. Is there a similar problem, or not a problem, but a challenge to overcome in Vedam Records also, of making people understand what does it mean?
Well, it's not really fully a challenge if I had to look at it, right, Vishwa? Like the way I look at it today, kids are more attuned to listening to sonics more than music. And I'm using the word sonics for a simple reason because I have, come across 12-year-olds or 14-year-olds who just go to YouTube and listen to brown noise, white noise, and stuff like that. So they are listening to this. They're more attuned to sonic frequencies that help them, right? At the same time, you also have preteens and kids who listen to lo-fi music because it helps them. We have people around our age and older who suddenly their work mode becomes house and EDM. So music has its own little bias for everybody. Everyone has a fallback that they go to, right? Tomorrow you open my Spotify, you'd be like, okay, he still listens to um, I still listen to Zimmer. My morning starts with background scores because I'm more aligned with that kind of music. But if I'm running, I do have my metal and rock and hip hop that's happening. It will be the same for you. It will be the same for Kyle on this call, right? We all have a little pockets, right? Uh, Getting us to listen to this form of music will only come when we actually experience it and we start moving in that direction. Uh, so I want to say for people above 30, yes, it's discoverability, it's the experience to this music that matters, that helps them fall into this bracket. But kids today just know this by default because that's the music they consume a lot more, right? If I have to talk of a trend that's happening in the last 3 weeks, just look at where Radhika Das is with the bhajan clubbing that's going on, whether it's
Yeah,
the Chandigarh show or Ahmedabad last night, like 4,000 people,
it's the
right?
new rage.
It's the new rage. It's also, and it's what I believe that's going to happen very soon. It's matcha and wellness. There is, I think, Geo World Drive is already doing morning yoga with wellness in the mall at 7 a.m. when the mall is shut. Right. So these trends are slowly catching on. You have a lot of crystal sound baths rising in the city. Today, you have more healing events in the city than music festivals or concerts in the city, right?
Yeah.
And I'm giving this reference out to you because you and I also attend every indie musician, that is out there. A lot of that is reducing. You have the very large scale concerts, and then suddenly you have wellness events happening across the city,
Yeah.
right? So there is that rise, I believe, because it's been a stigma in this country, right? Nobody talks mental health. Uh, Once that changes, once people are a lot more aware and people don't look at it as something to look down upon, I think that is when everything changes, right?
Right.
More and more kids today seek professional help. More and more adults today are seeking talk therapy or are looking at other modalities to feel better and not just rely on medication because nobody wants to go down the pill route, right? So, which is why you'll see talk therapies on the rise. You'll see a lot of platforms rising, right? You have modality experts more and more in the city that are helping you where I don't want to go to a shrink, but I want to go to somebody who can help me better. And
Yeah.
which is why we have something with one of our artists. She does Yog Nindra in the city, right, in Mumbai. 2 hours of a sound bath for sleep every weekend. And she's full every weekend.
Wow, this is exceptional. So you said something very interesting is that there is a stigma attached to talking about mental health issues. B, at the same time, there is a growing awareness where people are realizing. And three, that this the interest in the space of music is increasing. But if I think about it, do you think there, in your opinion, or in the general opinion also, we could do better, even better, if we have a certain bit of uh, a push from the government, or a bit better policy decisions which can help expand the scope and reach of this exceptional music that you're putting out?
I believe we can always do better, right? Because if something works, doesn't mean it can't be better.
Yeah.
While the country and I stick to my roots on this one because uh, Vedam was formed on the fact of better being, right? We also relied on the Vedas because, let's admit it, we created this, right? We have a 5,000-year-old heritage with the Vedas. When you look at all of it, music forms from itself. While we only focus on one modality in this country, which is yoga, which is where the larger push is, I do believe if we do have push for everything else as well, holistic healing, which is now on the rise, if it's led by institutions, would make it a lot better, as just opposed to we're happy to do it because uh, we're universal, right? And I think the largeness of us is we always define culture through music. It's something Solution Grange pushes and advocates. It's something I think all the regional offices do it, and we're happy to do this with Vedam as well. We, in fact, are doing this with Vedam. We're doing this with Solos, right? But any help that aids to this, right? It always helps push that envelope boundary a little more. Tomorrow, if let's go back one step, right? If this was part of everybody's education system, it solved so much of a problem, right?
Yeah.
Today, music is not even part of the education system unless you're in an IB school.
Yeah.
But if it was, the world would be a better place.
I mean, I can't disagree to this and can't agree more to this, what you have said just now. And I, it's basically, it starts from the roots and starts from the basics and starts from the education. If education is set right from the beginning, a lot of these issues that people are facing, and people are not aware also, A, whether they are facing an issue, B, how to address those issues. They just possibly go in their own shell. And a lot of times that's not the best thing to happen. But to make this, I see, in my personal opinion, I see Vedam Records as not just a record label, but as a tool for the betterment of society, or a medium or a platform for the betterment of society. And for such uh, for such a platform, or for such a medium to reach out to more people, what kind of collaborations do you have in your mind when you talk about 2026 or years going ahead, if there are any?
So there are tons of collaborations on this, right? Like you rightly put, we're not just a record label. We're a tiny little space on the internet right now because we're pretty much on Meta, which talks mental health, which talks wellness, which talks holistic wellness, right? What we're building, like I said, is the core of the music. A, the musicians. B, the modality experts, right? So in the coming years, we're going ahead with a lot of modality experts, so breathwork practitioners, yoga practitioners, talk therapists, getting all of these people on board to be part of our musical panelment, which says, okay, uh, you're doing this in your city. Why don't you come and help us design the music and then also be the artist on the music, right? So while I do have a composer and I do have an artist, I also want my modality expert on this. So I'm not just looking at artists per se, but looking at people who actually breathe, and live this space to come on board and advocate it a lot more because I don't believe an artist alone can do it. While an artist alone can talk about it, having a modality expert along with it makes a very large dent, and which is exactly what we're doing with SOK as well. Like we've not really spoken about SOK, but if you actually go back and listen to the album, right, on headphones, each track has a binaural sublayer beat attached to it, right? So it's designed as a wellness album as well. It's got the musicians on it, right? And it's got Shri on it as well. So you have somebody who practices and preaches holistic wellness. You have the musicians who define and speak culture. You have Shri, who is a culture in himself. And then I have my core, who is Siddhant, who is my musician and my composer, who's stitched this beautiful piece together, whether it's musicians from across the globe on this one, from Ron to Charu, and having then the modality experts on it, right? I think it was the perfect collaborative album for us to start with. And as we go on building, we continue to do the same with Chad Lawson. We've done the same thing. We've actually got one of our artists who's a modality expert. She does our guided meditations and sound baths with us. She's actually playing the sound bowls over the piano, right? We've also added the harp. I don't think we've ever heard the harp in the city, right? So we've got a harp player with the piano designing wellness music. So we've got a lot of these collabs happening in the coming year. And like I said, we're also trying to break down into languages, right? I do not just want to keep it to English. We're going regional in a lot of places, and we're going to have guided meditations in regional languages as well. So it's more accessible to a lot of people and not just the 5% of the country.
Fair enough. When you say you're going regional, and I would say world, in world I would talk about right now, not just India, but in world, what have been the trends that you have seen? Which continents or which countries are more inclined to consume this kind of music compared to others, and how do they stack up?
Well, the world consumes a lot more of this music than India at this point in time, right?
Yeah,
And which is something I'm so grateful for. It's when I look at it externally, yes, yoga is largely practiced more outside than inside, right? Although we are the origins of it. Sound healings happen a lot more outside than inside. But what's happening is that all of these trends are now picking up within our country as well, right? So I'm seeing that global expanse, and when I talk about going regional, I'm just not talking about going regional, within India. In fact, we're right now in the middle of a collaboration to try and do a guided meditation with our South African office in Swahili. So it's going to be Vedam music with Swahili on it for the South African diaspora. We're doing the same with Southeastern influences. We're trying to get the pan flute influence or try and get, Mandarin or Japanese in it so that it's also because our cultures overlap, right? A lot of Buddhism, a lot of similar deities. So we want to move it around in such a way that music is always universal, right? It
yeah,
doesn't need a language. You just need a medium to uh, translate it to somebody that works. You could,
yeah.
I think all of us just listen to music for the beats and we associate that. The language bit is the personalization to it, right? If I'm able to take that music and also personalize it, for sure it's consumed a lot more. It's like us not knowing a word of Spanish or Latin, but we listen to all of those sharp music. Why? Because there is the group. It's the same here. I have a bed that works. I just need to create personalization to it for the territory I wanted in. Right. So I'm actually looking forward to the Swahili and the way the music out there guidance. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty inspirational. Before we wind up, one last question, and I'll circle back to Sounds of Kum. At the start, we started with Sounds of Kum, and I would love to, close with Sounds of Kum. What happens after this album? Is there a possibility of? I mean, I'm sure you must have recorded tons and tons of music. Is there a possibility of extending this album in the near future? And is there a possibility of creating one more album which possibly might be even more collaborative than this one and coming out with Sounds of Kum 2?
So I wouldn't want to do Sounds of Kum too, right? We're very clear about how this was designed and it was an experience and initiative. Uh, I definitely do have more music and more collaborations coming out with some of these artists and a lot more people on this. We do have two back-to-back albums with Siddharth, which will be in the wellness space as well. Uh, I can't give out much details as yet, but we have definitely started work on it, and I'm actually waiting for the world to hear it. because it's in absolute alignment with the Vedas. It's in absolute alignment with our spirituality, and it's a side of culture. And like I said, we're defining culture and building culture, and want to export, our culture to the world. So we went with Kumbh because we wanted people to know about Kumbh. The next project is also something cultural, deeply rooted, and it's a story again, which we will bring out in the next year's edition.
Wow,
So
that
it's
sounds
all culture defining, and it's all storytelling that we're going after.
amazing. And I mean, look, with the kind of album and the kind of visual representation and the kind of the overall impact that Sounds of Kumbh has made in people's visual memory as well as sonic uh, capacities. I think we would definitely, as music culture, will definitely be looking forward to what's next, because I mean, honestly speaking, the bar is already, you have already set the bar high. Now, how is it going to be breached further? That's going to be very, very interesting to see. And thank you so much, Faustin, for taking time out with us. And it was a
Gladly.
mind-blowing experience to know about Vedam Records in its
I'm glad.
lot of details that you have shared with us. And we are more than eager to put it out for our readers and viewers to listen and
Sure.
to read about
I
it.
look I look forward to this.